Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. My guest today is Jennifer Wren Tolo. Now, Jen and I first met at a wellness retreat in Sedona, Arizona, and we were both practitioners there, and her table was right next to mine. Now, I was characteristically struggling with my setup at the table, and when she saw that, Jen was the first person to jump in and help. And this is what I've come to associate with Jen. First of all, a willingness to help, a very nurturing and grounded presence that has a practicality about getting things done, combined with amazing intuitive gifts. So let me tell you a little bit more about Jen. Jennifer Wren Tolo is an integrative bridge to health, using her science, nursing background, intuitive gifts, and personal experiences to bridge the gaps between modern medical health care and alternative health, and between self-care and caring for others. Jen helps overwhelmed mothers and children with special challenges to tame the chaos of their lives and awaken to the magic inside so they can take back their power over their health and well-being. Jen's the author of Family Fuel, A Busy Mom's Guide to Healthy Living, and a featured author in the Wellness Universe's Complete Guide to Self-Care, Tools for Stress Management. She's a speaker, a teacher, and most importantly, a mind-body-spirit connector and magic igniter. So join me for this magical conversation with Jen. Hello there, Jen. It's a pleasure having you here with me today.
I'm so excited to be here with you. I love hanging with you, Steph.
Oh, thank you. So I'm really excited to hear about, I know you're sharing with the world more of your magic and bringing that into your message and helping people to find their own magic. So what does that mean to you?
It's funny because it has been such a, not a terrifying thing for me, but this is really bumping me out of my comfort zone, because for me, the magic is really trusting that inner guidance, trusting the messages. And to me, there's magic in the messages of challenges and struggle, and there's magic in tuning in to the messages of your mind, your body, and your spirit. There's also magic in being open to possibilities, and magic in accepting and just kind of knowing inside to be true something that maybe can't be proven. So intuition and, do you believe in fairies? I believe in fairies. Do you? That kind of thing, not magic, but who's to say that things don't exist? Who's to say that somebody can't communicate with people that have passed? Who's to say that there aren't aliens in the world? All of this stuff that is, to me, magic, which we tend to close to because we can't prove it, because we're mired in that left brain, that logical, scientific, truth-seeking brain. But what we fail to do when we do that is we limit ourselves to that experiential, intuitive, right brain that's just so beautiful. And when we're able to merge the two, we are our most powerful. So I feel like there have been gifts of mine and magic of mine that I had to awaken to because of the struggles and challenges in my life. It was like, the universe said to me, it's time. You need to own these gifts. You need to open that third eye. You need to step fully into who you're meant to be. And to do that, you have to receive these gifts, own these gifts, and share them with the world. But there was a part of me that was afraid to do that because I was afraid of what the outside world was going to think. I didn't want to be crazy. I didn't want to be woo-woo. I didn't want to be dismissed. So I sort of, I opened that closet door for some people. I used all of my magic with my clients, but I didn't necessarily put that magic out there for the world to see. And now I'm finally in that place where I'm like, listen, we need magic right now in the world. We need to open to magic and to possibilities. And so I've been working with these two amazing women, Claire and Melissa, and they are like, your messaging has been falling short because it's not fully who you are. It's time to step in. And that was terrifying. Just from past beliefs, from things, it was terrifying to me. But it was like, okay, it's time to come out of the magical closet.
Ah, cool. So I'm glad to be a part of that, coming out
Yeah.
and sharing this. So what is your magic? Like how are you expressing your magic in your message now? Like what does that look like?
Well, I am sharing some of my experiences, some of my intuitive, soul-driven, soul-guided experiences, some of my gifts of medical intuition, being able to sort of see things, and how I use some of the tools that I've learned to support what I see, and how I use channeling and connecting to other people's guides and people that have passed sometimes, not always, but sometimes, to really deliver the messages of the soul and the messages that the person needs to hear in order to really open to their own magic.
So tell me a little bit, Jen, about this journey that you've been on, and I know that you call yourself an integrative bridge to health. And I see now that the integration is incorporating what we're calling magic, like this spiritual and your intuitive gifts and these things that maybe function outside of what most people think of as the logical mind and, mainstream science. But you also have a science background. So tell me a little bit about that, like what you're bringing together.
So I was, I'll just back up a little bit to childhood. I was raised in a home, very loving home, but I had always kind of had these gifts. I always saw people's energy. I always was very guided to nurture. And for some reason, I was drawn to people that needed energy, needed some help with energy. Didn't understand it, obviously, as a child, but I was guided to that. And I would see things, and I would be able to see things in people. And when I would tell my mother, she would say, "Oh, you're just trying to get attention. Stop it." And tell me that was sort of not okay, and that I needed to hide that, and I needed to not say this stuff. So lo and behold, I sort of learned around the age of 8 that for me to be accepted and for people to believe me or trust me, I had to be grounded in science. And so I knew that I was a nurturer, and I went on to medicine. So I went into nursing. And I went into nursing even though I was told, "You're smart enough to be a doctor. Why don't you be a doctor?" I was a nurturer. I wanted to nurture. I wanted to support people through a process, not just diagnose a person. So for me, it was medicine. And I went into critical care medicine because I liked sort of the chaos. I liked the troubleshooting. I liked being on my toes. And this was my way. I was still guided to things. I still had those hunches that something doesn't seem right to me. But I also learned how to support those hunches with science and with facts. So I would be believed. So somebody would listen to me instead of just, and I think by doing that, I had cultivated the trust with others where people knew, oh, if Jen says this, listen to what she says. Just go with it because she's usually right, right? So it was, again, just supporting that sort of logic. But then when I used those hunches, I didn't really understand that it was my intuition then, but I used those hunches to guide me. And then when my second son was born, he had a massive neonatal stroke. And when I think back on it now, it was almost like the universe was shutting off my left brain because I needed to fully use my right brain and that inner knowing. And I remember just being stuck in this, like, what's going on? Where's my baby? Why can't they bring me my baby? I'm supposed to have my baby. And my medical mind, my logical mind could not wrap I couldn't understand what was happening. And then I got the message, just breathe, just breathe. And when I started to breathe, it was like this fog lifted. And I just had these words that just came that just said, you need to be with your baby. You need to connect to your baby, and he's going to let you know what he needs. And everything will come. Just trust whatever you need will come. So Reiki came. One of my dear, dear friends was like, I'm going to train you in Reiki because your son needs this Reiki. So I didn't really understand it, but it's amazing when you are in a place of feeling a little bit powerless and a little bit painful and a little bit hopeless or helpless that you open to anything. And so it was like, I just opened to all these possibilities, and whatever came, I was like, okay, I'll take that. Okay, I'll take that. And then later I was able to say, okay, I don't really need that, but I need this piece of that. And that's the whole bridging, that the science background of mine. So I understand the medicine. I understand the body. Now I understand what's going on. And then I dove into, for my son, neuroscience, which is very much clinical, scientific, structural, logical stuff. But with that, I really used the energy and understanding energy, which is a little harder to explain. I dove into the Reiki. I dove into, I used my medical intuition, and I would do energy work with him. And later on, fast forward, my third son, same day I found out I was having my fourth boy, I found out my third son had leukemia, but I was already connected to the angels. I already was wide open and trusting the downloads and the messages. I was tuned into my mind, body, and my spirit needs. I was tuned into my son's soul, and I was able to do Reiki and use guided imagery and use everything I had in my toolbox to help them. And so to me, this is where I was still getting the chemotherapy for my son, but I knew that I needed the alternative or the more spiritual stuff of the Reiki and the mindfulness and the soul connection, balance everything that came. And through that whole process, I learned how to be a bridge between self-care and caring for others, because I burned myself out trying to put out all the fires and show up for everybody else that I forgot to show up for myself. So that's when I had an experience where I thought I was having a stroke, and it turned out to be just a massive atypical migraine. But it was like my wake-up call to, hello, you have to put yourself on the map here, otherwise you're not going to be around to take care of your family. So that's sort of how I really awakened to the magic inside of me. And I use that along with the science background and along with that logical mind to ground myself and to help decipher and filter information and guide me. But I really use that in a way of balancing the left and the right brain, so that logical mind and the intuitive mind, I use that together to really light my path and show me where to go.
That's cool. So the impression I have when you talk about this is it's not one or the other.
No.
It's broadening to allow for all of this information to inform what you know to do.
Exactly.
Without needing to prefer one over the other or push this aside because, oh, well, nobody's going to buy that, or that isn't real, or mainstream science doesn't accept this as possible.
It's sort of, to me, and we've talked about this in the past, Stephanie, it's really for me about balance and about not one or the other, because the one or the other, or the extremes, if you will, are what throw us out of balance, I think, are what sort of keep that pendulum swing going here or there. And so when we learn to open to both and to really, because that's who we are not one or the other, we're both. There's a duality in the oneness. And when we use all that we are given, all of our gifts, and we open to it, sometimes when we are too left brain or too much of an overthinker, we block our intuition. We block our inner truth. or we spin. We set, like right now, what's going on in the world. There's so much information, one way or another, counter information that sort of cancels each other out almost. But the truth is somewhere in the middle. And so how do you find that truth? You find that truth by knowing what the information is and then tuning in to your own inner truth and your own inner wisdom. And so it's like you have to know what's out there, because I feel like this science and the knowledge is what grounds us and anchors us. If we're too much one way, then, I mean, I know people, dear friends of mine, that are sort of having trouble here on Earth in this planet because they are on a different plane. They're in that spiritual world, which is fine, but they have trouble anchoring. And then they have trouble communicating with others in a way that others can receive it. And so that, to me, is what the key is. You have to balance the two, to your point, so you can communicate with everybody, right? And so you can communicate your messages to everybody in a way that can be received. And that's my role, is I feel like I'm supposed to awaken people to their magic. I'm supposed to teach people how to bridge the gaps between, the science and intuition, between self-care and caring for others, between adults and children, and between medicine and alternative medicine. So to do that, I have to be able to speak both languages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And I hear the wisdom in your own experience when you were acting as a nurse in critical care and getting these hunches and having this knowledge, and the wisdom in saying, okay, I need the science, I need the practical to back it up in order to be heard.
Yes.
It's not a cop-out. It's actually wise to use whatever's necessary, whatever you're led to use in order to connect with someone. It's kind of like I might have a message, I might be trying to help one person, and perhaps for them I might talk something very spiritual. Like some of my conversations are pretty out there these days. But out there in a way that's really beautiful, that takes people to that place in themselves. It gives people an experience of their connection with the universe, or their connection with God or source or spirit or whatever, which is a beautiful and healing and presencing thing. But with other people, I try to have that conversation in that particular language and forget it. They're not even going to talk to me.
Right.
But we can go through the intellect or philosophy in the mind, or we can go through something that's very practical and tangible and about what they're dealing with in their family and in their life at this moment. And we can take any of those paths to that place. Mm-hmm. So there's a wisdom, and I hear you having your fingers in a lot of these different things and being able to just bridge that, use that, communicate with that according to whatever in the moment you're led to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I think that it's really trusting and opening to that wisdom that comes through, the magic of the messages, to let that guide you, instead of feeling like you have to have all the answers and you have to know what to say and what to do. I mean, there are times, I remember giving a talk in particular to a group of doctors and their families about how to be more present in their life. And it was, people wanted to hear this. But I remember my husband saying to me, who's very much a supporter of mine and very trusting of mine, that he said to me, just make sure you don't get too woo-woo because they'll dismiss what you're saying. So I made sure that I had science to back up things that I was saying, and then I would just expand on that. And I said, I sort of had my little script, but I let spirit guide me. I let those messages guide me and tell me, okay, are they ready for this or are they not ready for this? Do I use this? Do I not use this? And all I do is I ask before I give a talk. For me, it's Archangel Gabriel, to help guide me. And that's opening to that magic while having my feet firmly planted on the ground, anchored.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is the magic that you most want to awaken in people right now?
I want them to awaken to their own truth, their own knowing. Because so many of us are so focused outside ourselves and focused on other people telling us our truth, telling us what to believe, telling us what to do, giving us the formula, right? And we've talked about this just in marketing, right? The formula for doing things. And this isn't to say that there isn't a formula, but I guess what I want to help people awaken to is what's the right formula for them? And how can you learn but pull out your own truths? So learn from somebody and gain some knowledge, but really integrate it and make it your own based on what resonates with your own truth and your own purpose and your own experiences. And so to me, I see so many people, I say I like to help people go from feeling powerless to powerful. And by doing that, not looking to other people to give them power, but to take back their power over themselves by opening to the magic inside of themselves. Now, when I say that to some people, they think, oh, are you going to teach me how to channel, people that have passed? Are you going to teach me how to communicate with the angels? If that's what your thing is, I could help you, but I'm not going to teach you. I'm going to teach you or help guide you to awaken to your own messages, your own truth, your own gifts, to understand what your own gifts are. For example, I remember having somebody I worked with that was, I never called when I would see certain things, or I'd see an illness, or I'd be guided to certain parts of the body. I never knew that was called medical intuition. Never knew. That was never a word that I heard. I just was like guided to certain things. And I had a woman that I worked with years and years and years ago, Pamela, who said, you're a medical intuitive. And I was like, I am? She said, yeah, I've got something going on with my eye right now. Just tell me, what is it? And I was like, and my logical mind starts to shut down because I'm looking for the facts. I don't have any facts. I don't know anything about her. I didn't even know she had problems with her eye. But when I stop, and she said, just listen. And this is where the trust comes in. And so many of us block our intuitive selves. We block the magic because we let that left brain, that ego mind, create self-doubt and stop us from trusting whatever's coming through to be true. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so I feel like I want to help people trust and allow whatever comes through to come through, and tune out that outside world and what people might think of you, what people expect of you, and all this stuff, and just really tune that out, because that's the noise that distracts us from our own truth.
So I have,
our own magic.
Before you go deeper into this, and I want to ask you more about it, what did you get about her eye? I want to know.
I got that. I'm trying to remember, because this is about 10 years ago. I remember getting that she was having like pixels, like she was having trouble seeing, like a not macular degeneration, but that she had to have cataract surgery, I think, and she had trauma to her eye that was creating pain and making it so she couldn't see and all that. And I just remember seeing like blood vessels. I saw like foggy vision. And it's hard to describe when somebody says, like, how do you know that? Like, here's an example. My mom, least recently, has had really bad diverticulitis, inflammatory process in the gut, where it creates these pockets that it's like these little pockets that come off the intestines that food can get stuck in those pockets, and it creates a lot of inflammation and irritation. It's a very painful thing. My mom has had it off and on. My mom is not the kind of person that wants to do any sort of dietary changes. She just wants to take the pill or cut it out and fix it, right? But she came to see me. It was my dad's 80th birthday, and she insisted on coming up. We had planned a surprise party. She came up. She was in so much pain. She said, Jenny, can you please do some Reiki on me? So I put my hands on her belly, and I all of a sudden get this picture of this, and the word sigmoid colon came in. sigmoid colon completely inflamed, very like the red and irritated with, and they were showing me a very thin lining. I said, Mom, you got to go to the doctor. This is serious. You've got to go. Turns out she went to the doctor the next day. They did a CAT scan. It was her sigmoid colon, and it was inflamed, and it was, she had abscesses on it. She had to go in and have some procedures done. Anyway, the old me would never have, I would have dismissed what I saw. And I maybe wouldn't have shared what I saw. I would have just said, you got to go to the doctor. I think that you should go to the doctor, but I wouldn't have described. And then of course she says to me, well, how do you see that? What do you see? How do you see that? I'm like, I can't really describe it. It's like a picture, but also like a description. So again, I'm just awakening to it. And I think having that science background and that medical background helps me understand it, because I do know people that are also medical intuitives without the medical background. So they don't know how to necessarily describe what's going on or explain what exactly is happening in the body. So that's why I think it's for me, I can explain what's going on, and then having a CAT scan just verifies that what I saw was in fact what was going on. So the science to back up, right?
Yeah, that's a good example of both using your own knowledge and language that you have around the medical, around anatomy and your medical background, with the intuitive vision and guidance that you had in order to give information that was very useful.
Yeah.
And practical. Yeah. It's actually very practical. You know, as you're talking about this, Jen, I'm thinking about how it is for me, and I'll share how it is for me. Maybe you could tell me like how it is for you. So when I get something that doesn't come from my logical mind, and for me, I have a sense, and sometimes it's actually a spatial sense around me or the person in front of me, which is weird. It's hard to describe. It's like, I call it sometimes see feel, like there's a texture or something, and it brings me information, which sounds very weird, but it's actually useful. So how could a texture be useful? So it's sort of like I'm talking to someone and I just have a felt sense of, what they might be experiencing. And I receive that like I would other pieces of information with curiosity. I don't assume that I know what that means, or that I'm right in whatever my mind then turns around and makes this into. So usually I'll ask about it. So I'll say like, is there something around blah, blah, blah? I keep getting a feeling that there's something there that you want to talk about. Is there? Not thinking that I know there is, but just sort of seeing what's there. Or sometimes I get a very strong sense about how things connect, even though I can't make a logical connection. Like I don't have the logical information, but I can feel how they connect. And just reflecting that with someone can help them to make the connection because they have the information. I don't,
Absolutely.
Or I have an experience sometimes of, this is a really fun one. I have not talked about this publicly before. Oh my God.
Yay.
You're getting me to fess up to the way magic shows up in my life.
Yeah. So
when I'm talking with someone, I will often know something maybe 60 seconds before they tell me. So like, for example, I was in a car with someone who was talking about an experience that she had with developing film, like taking pictures and developing them. And just as she was talking about that, I got a really strong sense of the smell. Now, I didn't actually smell it, and I don't think I've ever really smelled it, although I have an idea of what it would smell like, but there's a certain chemical smell. Right. And so it comes over me, and she says, oh, and I just remember the smell of it, things like that. Or I'll be talking to someone, and I just know they're going to mention something, and yep, sure enough, in the next minute, it is not, to me, it's not like reading minds, although I guess technically it is. It's just receiving communication. It's like there is this intelligence that we have access to all the time, and it tends to show up in different ways for different people. And that's one of the ways that it shows up with me is kind of intuiting connections and having a felt sense of what's happening with people that I can use to guide my questions, which is more logical, in order to make those connections in a way that's useful. So sometimes I might speak to it and sometimes I might not. It might seem completely inappropriate, but I don't take them as facts, but I don't dismiss them either. It's like more information to use to, oh, okay, I wonder what that's about. I'm thinking
it's a
this.
guidance system.
Yes.
It's a guidance system.
So how is it for you? Like, what do you see in that?
Similar. Well, one thing, just when you, like, we've known each other a while now and I've worked with you and you are so open. And I just, like, when you were talking about that, it was like your soul opens to their soul and you connect on that deep level with somebody that you pick up stuff. It's a beautiful thing. And it's I love how you said, I don't assume, because our interpretation might be different than their interpretation. I think that's such a really powerful point to make, is that just opening to it and questioning with curiosity, I think, is how we connect, right? Because then we probe and we help. Because what is the goal? The goal is to really help the other person awaken. It's not to put our beliefs and our thoughts onto the person or to mind control, right? It's to connect and guide. And so I think that's beautiful. Similarly, for me, when I work with people, I believe it's my spirit guides, my angels connecting to their angels, and they're the ones giving me information. And there are times, mostly, that I hear information. I might get little pictures or I will feel emotions. Like all of a sudden I'll get like a wave of an emotion that's not mine. And like you, I don't assume. I will just ask questions. So like sometimes when I am doing Reiki or energy work with somebody, I'm guided to certain areas and I'll ask them, do you feel anything in this area? And all of a sudden that just probes it, like it's almost like I'm directing attention somewhere to be like, notice this. Is there anything here? And sometimes they'll say no. Or sometimes I'll get a picture of something, but I'll be told they're not ready to hear that yet. So I say, okay, it's more for me to understand, and I'll usually make note of it and then maybe go back to it, maybe another session. So it's interesting, and I'll share this one story with you that's one of my favorite stories. When I was doing Reiki, and Reiki is just, for anybody who doesn't understand what Reiki is, it's just energy work. It's basically energy that comes through me, and I am just the channel, really. But it's energy that is then sent to the person, and it goes wherever it's needed to go. So a dear friend of ours, of my husband and I, young man, had small children, was diagnosed with cancer. And it had already metastasized, so it was pretty far along and not really in a place that by the time he sort of found everything and realized this is what's going on, it was not something that they could change and reverse. And he had asked me, could you do Reiki on me? And this is something that, like, he had always kind of been like, that's weird, I don't know. But he had asked. I said, yeah, absolutely. And my intention was to heal him. So I went in to work with him, I remember, and I, put my hands on him, and I was like giving him everything I had. And then I went home and I was exhausted, drained, dizzy, like everything. And I remember talking to my friend Bonnie, who trained me in Reiki, and I said, all right, what did I do wrong? What can I do? And she said, you tried to heal him, didn't you? And I said, yeah. She said, so basically, instead of connecting to what his soul and spirit needed, you put your intentions onto him and gave him your energy. That's why you're drained. She said, next time you go back there, just connect and figure out what his soul wanted. So next time I went back, I see, and normally I don't, this is the first time I've ever seen anything. I see this man standing behind him, and he tells me, I'm his friend, Chuck. I passed away, years ago, and he needs you to help him pass. He's not here. He doesn't want you to heal him. He needs help letting go because his soul is done. Like he's can't, you know. And so that was my work. And that's what I had to, and it was one of the most powerful lessons for me as far as allowing whatever is meant to be instead of trying to control outcomes. So, yeah, I mean, that's the first time, and it just went wherever it went. And I remember I get these feelings, like I call them full body zings, where, you know, like the hair stands up, or I just get this, like, literally feels like a zing in my body, that tells me like something's up, or tells me to tune in, or tells me what I'm sensing, feeling, seeing is spot on. And I had that zing. We were supposed to go away on vacation. It was right around this time of year. I forget how many years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. We were supposed to go away, and I got this feeling like, can't go anywhere. You got to go visit him in the hospital. And I went into the hospital, and there he is. His wife was there, who was kind of a little skeptical of me. And his buddy, Chuck, was there, and he said, it's time. So I said, it's time, buddy. You got to bring the kids in. They hadn't told the kids. They hadn't really talked to the kids. So it was that kind of, but I just trusted and just went with wherever I needed to go, allowing that to guide me. So it's words, it's sounds, it's feeling sensations. I've never had a smell. But, you know, and sometimes I get pictures, sometimes I get stories, sometimes I'll get people's names. It comes in all different ways, shapes. You know what I mean? There is no one way, but I think the real key is just opening to it, just being like, okay, like you said, questioning, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Yeah, I mean, I've had animals talk to me, and I've literally said, what am I supposed to do with this? And they say, just tell them what they're saying. Okay.
That's cool. You know, what I'm getting as you're saying this, Jen, and what strikes me about it is that there's this misunderstanding that our gifts are something we do, and an association with my identity around them. Like this is me. And then of course we start to create, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of fixed things around it, and then we're overthinking and judging ourselves or doubting or needing to prove or something, right? Instead of what I heard there's a beautiful inclination that a healer has to heal, to bring healing, to nurture. But the misunderstanding happens when it's something that I do, or it's something that you do, instead of healing is like an energy that moves through, that we can open to, that we can invite and allow it to do what it's there to do. And it's not about my little agenda or what I think is supposed to happen or something that I have to do, but it's something that when I show up and open with that kind of open intention for healing, whatever healing is to be done will happen. And it's there's a way to trust that. I hear you in those situations, 100%. Learning to trust that it's going to do itself, and all I have to do is open and be present and allow it.
So what I like to say, yes, absolutely. But what I like to say is, it's like, I'm the way shower. I am a healer, but I'm not healing you. I am helping you heal yourself. I am helping you identify what it is that you need. What are the messages inside, the magic inside of you that can heal yourself? So, and I mean, I have this program called the Inside Out Healer program, or Inside Out Healing program, because I really believe that's the problem, is so many of us look to others and we give our power away to other people to fix me. And then there are people that feel powerful, like, I am going to do this for you. You need me. Only I can do this. And it's a false power, right? We all have this. We all have the ability to tune in to our own messages. We all have different gifts. And these gifts, they are gifts. They're things that are brought to us from generations, from past lives, that we carry with us. Sometimes we don't awaken to them. We're not ready to own those gifts. And sometimes we need help. We need to partner with somebody who's going to show us how to use those gifts. Like my friend Bonnie and my friend Pamela and all the guides along the way that I've had on earth that have helped me. And then I've worked with shaman. I've sought out people, again, using my intuition to say, okay, this is the right, yes, this feels right for me. But it's all coming. I am the co-creator of my life. I am the person that is in control and empowered over my own life. Does that make sense? And if I choose to give my power away to others, to have other people tell me what's right for me, or heal me, or tell me the right thing to do, or tell me what my future holds, or tell me what my gifts are, then I'm choosing to give my power away to somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the healing and the gifts and the knowing always comes from within, even if it's
Absolutely.
supported from without, and
Absolutely.
as it should be, as it would be, right? Like that's
Yes.
how our intuition and our guidance shows us things, is often
Right.
through externals, and sometimes through guides, and sometimes
Right.
through circumstances, and sometimes through information, and sometimes through science, and all of these other things that happen.
But it's just like you helping me, right? You don't help me by doing for me. You help me by helping to guide me and show me, to help me uncover my own messages, right? I mean, you did that with me. Absolutely. You might help in writing something. You might give me an exercise to help me awaken to that, whatever needs to come through. But you're not doing it for me. You're just guiding me to my own truth. And that's what we're supposed to do, right? And with what I do, I always say, I am not for you if you want me to fix you, or if you want me to tell you what to do. I'm also, one of the hesitancies that I had when I was first creating this new website, this JenniferWrenTolo.com versus the ButterflyFamilyWellness.com, was I didn't want people to think that I am going to give you magic, or I'm going to help you all of a sudden get all these, like the gifts, like to be able to do exactly what I do. No, because you're not me. I'm not you, right? You're going to be able to do things that only you can do. But what I will help you do is to awaken to whatever is inside you that needs to come through. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So who are you most led to help awaken their own magic these days? What does that look like for them?
People like me that were moms, particularly moms of kids with special challenges, because I really believe that we were blessed with these children, that this was like a soul contract that we have with these children to come into the world and to let them teach us and let their magical spark reignite our own, reignite the flame of purpose in our lives. So I really want to help the people like me that were very, logical minded, very type A, very driven, very doers, people that like to be in control, to help them not feel so overwhelmed, not feel so frustrated and powerless, not feel like they have to do everything and be everything to everybody all the time, but to help them learn to let go of that control a little bit and allow the magic to just come through them. Those are my people that just right now they're feeling really tired and exhausted and a little lost. And I just want to help them tune back in and reignite that flame inside of them, that magical flame, that purposeful flame, and find their personal power so they can feel like, okay, I've got this. There's a reason for my challenges. There's a reason that I've been blessed with this child, and help them really awaken. And to me, that's how we're going to change the world. Make it a more beautiful, more purposeful, more heart-centered, loving place.
You know, there's something that you said before, Jen, about how it's often in those times when we feel helpless and powerless that we give up the idea of control enough that knowing awakens, or we actually are quiet enough to listen to it because we've just given up trying to figure it out. And I've also seen that we don't have to wait for that. You know, I mean, sometimes we do, and that can be a gift. It's not something that I would wish on anyone when they feel that way.
Yes.
And it sounds like you're kind of meeting people who are sometimes in that place or have been in that place of feeling powerless and helpless and overwhelmed and just exhausted of the trying, and like, okay, fine. I can't do it. I need something else. And there's an opening there. How do we recognize that we are, this is a funny question, I'll ask it anyway. How do we recognize that we are really ready to explore and awaken that magic and discover what that means for us?
It's funny because as you were just talking, I got this visual of this dark pit and this person climbing out of this dark pit, right? Like they're in there for a while. They're realizing, okay, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting by myself and I'm sitting in my shit, in my stuff. And they're starting to climb their way out, right? And all of a sudden, because they're going towards the light. And then all of a sudden they see somebody reaching out their hand and saying, I've got you, let me help you. That's me, right?
Yeah.
That's you. That's, those are the people. Like, I can't help somebody when they're in their dark pit because, and I've tried. And usually those people are still looking for somebody, like they're so tired and exhausted and overwhelmed that they're still looking for somebody to do their work for them, to make their path easier. And it's almost like once they start to recognize, I got to stop looking outside and I got to start taking charge of my own life. And they start saying, okay, one step, one choice. I'm choosing to start to climb out of this pit. I am starting to take steps. I am one choice, one thought, one moment at a time. And while I'm climbing, I'm also open and asking for help. And I'm open to help. Those are the people that are ready for somebody like me, or somebody that is going to show them, and because it's deep self-reflection. And when you're still in a place where you don't want to look, where you still want to be distracted, I can't help you. You can't awaken because you're still caught in this fog of another person's story. You're still caught in that same story, right? And you're still looking for a hero to come. You haven't embraced the idea of you being your own hero.
I want to say something about people who find themselves in that black hole. Because in those moments it feels so despairing and like there's no way out and that there is no glimmer of light to be seen. And what I see, not to dismiss the experience of that, but what I see is that you are the light, that we are the light, even when it's obscured. And so it's never far away. We're not actually in a dark hole with all our shit, where it just feels that way. And all it takes is one fresh thought, one new thing to come in. Yes. And the beautiful thing about those moments of feeling hopeless and helpless and powerful is that that's often when we're quiet enough to receive it. What's already always been there, but we were so noisy and so desperate and so struggling and trying to hold everything together that we couldn't. And the moment that we stop is when, okay. You know, like there's some direction, there's some glimmer of something that we receive, and it's that simple and natural. Like that is actually how we're made, and we just learn otherwise in this world, unfortunately, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And
it's a conditioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's conditioning.
Yeah. But because it's what we are, it's not a long journey. It's not a far journey. There's really nowhere to go to reconnect with that. Yeah.
I saw a beautiful meme that just really spoke to me, and it said, I alchemize my pain into magic. And to me, that's it, right? It's you take those moments, those dark and painful moments, to almost like reignite, respark that light inside of you that says, I want something different. Like Bernie Siegel talks about being reborn. It's like, to me, our greatest power as human beings is that power of choice, right? You can choose to sit in darkness as a victim. Woe is me. This is happening to me. Or you can choose to sort of take what the experiences are, and then, like you said, one thought, one moment, one action, one choice at a time, you can start to kind of reshape that story and rebirth yourself into who you want to be, what you want to be, right? That's the hope. That's the magic of hope and being open to possibilities, right? When we lose hope, that's when we're choosing to sit in that darkness, like thinking there's never any light. Because you know why there's no light? Because our eyes are closed. Open your eyes, right? But sometimes you have to be in complete darkness in order to be able to see the light. And let that light pull you towards it, right? That new direction.
So what would you say, Jen, to someone who really wants to trust that magic? Like they're like, yeah, I want to believe that. I want to believe that I can trust the guidance that I have, the stirring, the awakening, and maybe they begin to feel it, but they're having trouble. They're struggling with self-doubt. What would you tell them?
I would say just take it one moment at a time. One moment at a time. One thought. And just when that self-doubt comes, just say, well, okay, but what if this is different? What if I just trust and let's just see what happens. Just see what happens. Right? There's no harm in that. There's no harm in that. There's no failure. But when you see what happens and all of a sudden that happens again and you trust that, the self-doubt, that noise inside your head starts to quiet. And you start to question that noise. Is that true? Is that always true? And reframe, like when you just have those moments of trust and moments of just allowing, and you follow that guidance, it just reaffirms. It like reinforces that muscle, if you will, that magical muscle inside of you. And it just reaffirms that, yes, okay, yep, that's my truth. And it all worked out. And now, because I'll tell you, when we start to do that self-doubt, the self-doubt comes. That's when you have to say to yourself, okay, that's just my ego trying to protect me because this is new. So I'm ready for something new. I asked for something new. So I'm okay. I'm safe. And reassure yourself I'm safe. So reframe that self-doubt into just love, into self-love, just trying to protect myself. But today I'm going to choose to just allow whatever comes to come. trust whatever comes, that it's meant to come. And just reframe it. Because that self-doubt will come. That is your ego trying to protect you. Because it doesn't know any different. And it protects you by trying to keep you in the old, in the safety and security of what you know. But we don't grow from that place.
Yeah. It's a beautiful experiment I would invite someone into. It's like, well, just what if you did trust it? Just for a moment, just this moment.
Exactly.
Like you're saying, one step at a time. You don't have to do the whole thing. That's, again, where the mind is going to take us to, oh my God, if I do this forever, I'm going to end up I'm going to be disowned by my family and friends, and they're going to all think I'm crazy, and they're going to burn me at the stake, and all the stories, right, that happen if we, well, just this. Just trust this. I need to take a break right now. I need a nap.
Right.
Like it really can be that simple.
That simple.
Yeah.
Or, like just the other day, I was going to take my dogs for a walk. And I was drawn to go just a little bit farther away to this place called Ravenswood. And I was like, now, the old me would have been like, why am I Ravenswood? Why am I going there? I only have this much. But I said, you know what? Okay. I'm being guided to Ravenswood. Got out with my dogs, walked a little bit, and I bump into one of my dear friends that I haven't seen in forever. And it was like, okay, that's why I was guided to Ravenswood, because this is where Kate was, and we needed to connect today. And it's just like something simple like that. What's the harm? So I go to Ravenswood. I'm a little bit farther away. I don't run into anybody. Oh, well, I had a beautiful walk, right? It's like, I feel like we do get caught up in that future focus. We do get caught up in this projection of like, well, if I do this and then this happens and then this happens. So stop. When you find yourself going there, like slow the spin. That to me is that spin. Just stop and say, okay, one choice, one moment, one conscious thought at a time. That's it. And let it unfold as it's meant to. That's what it is to be in the flow of your life versus to be on the banks of control and chaos, right? You don't go anywhere on those banks. You just bounce back and forth and wonder why we're so exhausted and feel like our whole body aches because you're being slammed from bank to bank instead of just being in the flow, which is hard to do. In order to be in the flow, you got to trust and not have to control where you go.
Yeah. It's an experience. I like that you make it simple. One moment, one breath, one thing at a time. That's beautiful.
And each one of those moments reinforces and reframes that thought, that self-doubt, because you've had some positive experiences. It's powerful.
Cool. So Jen, tell me, if I'm listening to this and I am wanting to awaken my own magic in particular, I'm moved by your story, where should I go and connect with you?
So you can check out my new website that is not fully open, but it's partially open. It's jenniferwrentolo.com.
I will link to that
as
well. Mm-hmm.
I have on there a couple of freebies. I have a 5 steps to tune into your own truth is one of them. And then I have another one that's a warrior woman reset, and it's how to calm the chaos of your life. My top 10 tips on how to tame the chaos of your life so you can reclaim your power. And I love to give talks. I am working on a retreat, which stay tuned. And you can sign up for my newsletter so you can get all the different programs, the retreats, the different things that I'm offering. But I do love to give talks. So if somebody is looking for a speaker and somebody to help, just help people just start to open to the possibilities and to start to reclaim the little micro moments of magic in your life so you can feel like there's hope and possibility. Definitely reach out to me. All my links and how to contact me is all on my website.
Cool. Thank you, Jen. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.